You've reached the last chapter. We are going to now cover 2 lessons. Well, it'll probably take us more than 2 lessons via these videos, but we are down to the last couple topics, which are to do with trigonometry. So the first thing we're going to start with is just right angle trigonometry. So this is any triangle that has a right angle in it. To show a right angle, there's the little square in one corner, and that's showing you that that's a 90-degree angle. So the first thing is that when you're solving triangles that are right, there's a couple things that you can use. The first thing that you can use is Pythagorean Theorem, which is something we've already used in this course. It's used to solve for an unknown side when 2 sides are known in a, now this is what's important, it has to be a right angle triangle. We are going to, in this chapter of trigonometry, be moving on to non-right angle triangles, so you have to know when you're allowed to use what. So Pythagorean theorem works that if you have a right angle triangle, the longest side is called your hypotenuse. So this is C, and this is your hypotenuse. It's the longest side because it's across from the largest angle, because angles in a triangle add up to 180. So if this one's already 90, the other 2 are sharing 90, so they have to be smaller. So the largest side across from the 90-degree angle is your hypotenuse. And Pythagorean theorem states that the square of the side of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the 2 other sides. So if you drew a square onto C, so in this case it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 5, this square is 25 square units. So if I looked at the square of the other 2 sides, so if this one has a length of 3, this is 3 by 3, this would be 9, and this one is 4 by 4, so this is 16. So 9 plus 16 is 25. So the sum of the squares formed by the 2 sides is equal to the square of the hypotenuse. So how do we use this? Well, you can still use it one of 2 ways. You can use it to solve for the hypotenuse, or you can use it to solve for a side. If you're solving for the hypotenuse squared, in this case is x, because it's across from the 90, is equal to the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides. Sometimes these are called legs of a triangle. And then we just solve it. So we've got x squared is equal to 36 plus 64. X squared is equal to 100. So x technically is equal to plus or minus the square root of 100, but because we're talking about a triangle, all of my answers are going to be positive. So in Pythagorean, or in the trigonometry section, you don't have to write the minus because we're talking about lengths, which can never be negative. So I'm just going to say that my answer is 10. If you're solving for a side, again, we know that the hypotenuse squared, so the side across from the 90-degree angle, the square of the hypotenuse is equal to the sum of the squares of the other 2 sides. So instead of setting my formula up like this, I could say that a side squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared minus the other side squared. So in this case, we've got y squared is equal to 169 minus 144, which is 25. So to find y, I'm going to take plus or minus, but I don't have to do the minus. I'm just going to do plus the square root of 25, which is 5. So for solving for a hypotenuse, you just square them and add them together. For solving for a side, you always take the hypotenuse squared minus the other known side squared. And then you just always take the square root. So this is step number 1. Go to your assignment and solve the question that you think you can solve using the Pythagorean theorem.